Hello, I'm Stan Contos from Solve Results. Welcome to Breakfast at the Next Level. I encourage you to jot down 3 key points that will help take your life or business to the next level. So relax and enjoy.
About to introduce Stan Contos now. Stan I've known for many years, almost close to 40 years now. Stan's an executive chairman and founder of Star Pharmacy Group. He's a business and property entrepreneur. He's an author, he's a motivational speaker and a peak performance coach. Stan's also an authority on peak life performance, on leadership. He's the ultimate life coach. Stan's happily married to Rania. He's got 3 wonderful children as well. And without further ado, please welcome Stan Contos.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I've known Manuel for about 40 years. Turned 41 the other day. And good morning. Welcome to Breakfast at the Next Level. Welcome to our topic, turning adversity into strength. And we're going to have a discussion with Kevin from Spring Gully. Thank you for coming. Great to see you. Privilege always to present this program. And please keep eating your breakfast. Just enjoy your breakfast as I speak, and we'll bring up Kevin in about 15 minutes or so. And before we start, I thought I'd start with something funny. My daughter shared with me a really good joke. And she goes, "Dad, this is a good one for the breakfast." I'm there, "Let me have a look, sweetie." And it certainly was. In overseas, I know here we have parking inspectors. Overseas though, the police do a lot of the, there's a few countries where the cops still do a lot of the writing of tickets. And so anyway, there's a guy overseas, and he was telling us a story, and he goes, "I went to the store the other day, and I was only in there for about 5 minutes. When I came out, there was a motorcycle cop writing a parking ticket. So I went up to him and said, 'Come on, buddy, how about giving a guy a break?' And he ignored me and continued writing a ticket. So I called him a stupid idiot. He stared at me and started writing another ticket for having bad tyres. Then I got really angry at him, and he finished the second ticket and put it on the car with the first. And then he started writing a third ticket. And this went on for about 20 minutes. The more I abused him, the more tickets he wrote. I didn't care though. My car was parked around the corner." And I got another one here. Again, my daughter did a lot of research for me. She's a good little And she goes, "This is a good one too, Dad." Okay, there's a big game hunter. And he goes on safari with his wife and his really tough mother-in-law. And one evening, there's deep in the jungle in a tent, and the wife wakes up and finds her mum gone. And she rushes to the husband, and she insists that they've got to go out and find her. "Where's Mum?" And the hunter picks up his rifle, takes a swig of whiskey, and starts to go out looking for her. He goes into a clearing, not far from the camp. They come up to a hilly site, and the mother-in-law is backed up against a thick, impenetrable bush. And there's a large lion facing her. And the wife cries, "What are we going to do?" "Nothing," says the hunter husband. "The lion got himself into this mess. He can get himself out of it." So what's the purpose of Breakfast at the Next Level? The purpose is really to help you transform, to help you to get inspired, to motivate, and to educate. And every month we have a different topic, a different guest, and a different area of life. I've been in business now for over 20 years, and myself and Peter run a number of businesses around the country. And it's a great thing to have Kevin here with us. I want to share with you, because today is about turning adversity into strength, and I want to share with you the concept of worry. There was an interview with a 73-year-old man. He was a bit of a worrywart, and he spent most of his life worrying. And many of the things never actually occurred. They never came true. And so he realised at 73 that worry can damage your health, it can disrupt your productivity, it can negatively affect the way you treat people, and it can reduce your ability to trust in a higher source, in a creator. So how many ill effects of worry are you experiencing right now? The difference though between worry and genuine concern, is that worry immobilizes you, whereas concern moves you to action. There's quite a distinct difference. So I want us all to become much more concerned and taking action than warriors. So do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow is going to bring its own problems. Just be concerned about today and get through it. I often tell people to always follow your gut feel, always follow your intuition. I remember about 14 years ago, I made a decision to get my very first business coach. I went to an information session, just like this, and from there I set up a 30-minute one-on-one with a guy called Ron. And when I first met Ron, he was a very simple man. However, he came across very wise. And I wasn't sure whether to engage him for a year as my coach. But I made that decision based on a gut feel. I took the plunge and I went into a program with him for 12 months. And it was the best decision I ever made. Because within 12 months, I had bought more businesses, made more money, improved my health, had more leisure time, and expanded my spiritual awareness. And Ron shared with me this one model that I want to share with you this morning, and it's great for dealing with all adversities. And the model is, are you a victim or are you a victor? If you picture a line, if you have a line, and below the line is victim, and above the line is victor. And if you have the letters O-A-R above the line, and B-E-D below the line, it becomes a leadership model. O-A-R, O is for ownership. Always take ownership of every issue that comes into your life or business. A is accountable. Always be accountable to somebody. Commit and be accountable. And R is responsible. Always be a person that's able to respond, a responsible person, not a reactive person. And he goes to me, stay above the line always. Below the line is B-E-D. B is where you blame others. You blame the economy, you blame the government, you blame the tax department, you blame your competitors, you blame everything. E is you make excuses why you haven't done nothing and haven't taken action. And D is where you deny there's a problem and you just put your head in the sand. And so he goes to me, always stay above the line. And remember to stay in O-A-R, above the line. And if you do that, you'll always be a victor, never a victim. So I'm going to encourage you to use that model whenever you have a challenge. And as Manuel said, if you're in business or you want to be in business, start reading books about business. You know, the E-Myth is one of the very first books that Ron got me to read. He goes, you've got to learn to work on your business, you've got to learn to systemize your business, you've got to learn to measure your business. If your business depends too much on you, it's not a business, it's become a job for you. And so the E-Myth was one of the most instrumental books that I utilised. And contrary to what Manuel said, it's not $30, Manuel, it's $25. We like to sell things a bit cheaper. $25, mate. So, wouldn't it be great to look at adversity as an opportunity? You know, during adversity, fortunes are created, and during adversity is when your character is formed. Wouldn't it be great to be aware of your patterns that pop up when you have uncertainty and learn to rise above those patterns? Wouldn't it be great to understand that at the unconscious level, it's not what happens to us, but the meaning we give. It's always the meaning, because we're always going to have issues, we're always going to have challenges. That's life. However, it's the meaning we give that we can change. And wouldn't it be great to rise above adversity when the going gets tough, to be one of those tough ones that get going? And most importantly, wouldn't it be great that as you develop, you help others deal with their adversities as well and rise? I want to share a couple of things before I bring Kevin up. And one of the things I want to share is the seasons of life and business. You see, my belief is that we're always going to have a season in life and a season in business. And nature has the answers for us. We're always going to go through a winter. A winter is when things are harsh, things are tough, and things look bleak. However, many of us in winter might hibernate, might reflect, might ponder. But some of us want to go out skiing. Okay, so it's okay to have a positive mindset during the winters, because by having a positive mindset and going skiing, you're going to get through the winter a lot quicker. But at the end of winter is always spring. There's always new life, there's always opportunity, there's always a new budding growth that's going to come through. And it's up to us to see when spring has sprung and to notice it and to take action. But of course, once we develop that new opportunity, Summer is around the corner, and summer is a time of great heat and scorching. Summer is a time when birds come and take away your produce. So summer is a time to protect. And if you do it really well in summer, you're going to have a great autumn. You're going to have a great harvest. And the law of sow and reap is going to come into your life. And if you're reaping heaps, it means you sowed well, it means you protected well, and now you can enjoy it. And that's the same with life or in business. So always think of the 4 seasons. And in every area of life, whether it's your health, your relationships, your leisure, your spiritual development, your business and career, every area will go through seasons. And so it's important to notice the seasons and to know the strategy and how to deal with it. I always explain that it's not what happens to us, it's the meaning we give, because things are going to happen anyway. And so one of the goals I had years ago was to always become a master of meaning. And so when things get tough, how do we get our mind to click in and be in the right frame? And the best thing I've learned over the years is questions are the answer. Always have a couple of questions ready when things go wrong. The questions I always have is, what's great about this? What can I learn from this? Who can help me? Always have those questions ready. I never go to why me? Why do these things always happen to me? Why do they come in threes? Always have the right questions. So what's great about this? Who can help me? How can I turn this around? They're the questions that should pop into your head. Practice them. Because when things get tough, that's when you've got to bring them out and draw them out. I remember once I was in a car accident. Here I am, a little red Porsche, cruising, not concentrating very well. Turning a corner and not noticing there's a car in front of me, and smash. Crumpled my poor little Porsche. And I come out, and there's a young lady, she had a much older car, but her car was fine. Obviously they built those cars to last. Anyway, my car's crashed. My front end's crushed. And I get out, and immediately I almost went into the why me. And I said, no, what's great about this? But the little negative voice came up, nothing. This is crap. No, what's great about this? And I had to fight that negative voice. Eventually I won. What's great about this is I was about to go on a radio station to teach about emotional state management and how to handle adversity. And I'm there, if I can do it now, I can go on the radio station and be confident that I actually living what I'm teaching. And so I maintained my composure, I was positive, I comforted her, I said, go to exchange addresses and numbers and insurance companies. And it was all good, and I drove my little crumbled Porsche to the radio station on Angus Street and did a talk. And I didn't tell the presenter that I was just in a car accident, because I actually told him the next time I was there. They go, no, you're kidding. No. And she goes, that's excellent, I didn't know a thing. So very important to have the right questions ready. But I challenge you, when things go wrong, and the little negative voice is going to pop up, and you're going to fight it. You go, so what's great about this? What's great about this? Keep asking the right question. And eventually you will find what's great about that moment. So over to Kevin Webb now. Spring Gully Foods, Adelaide-based food producer, formed in 1947. Manufactures gherkins, onions, Worcester sauce, green tomato pickles and sweet mustard pickles. They also own Leabrook Farms, one of the largest honey brands in Australia. Now Kevin was employed in 1979 as a seasoned worker at Spring Gully Foods. He performed many duties in the company. He did production as a production worker, administration clerk, finance clerk, office manager, warehouse manager, and finance manager. In 95, he became the MD of Spring Gully Foods, where he introduced technology, quality systems, and quality assurance. For the past 6 years, he's been a treasurer of the Honey Packers and Marketers Association of Australia. In 1996 and 2007, he was charter president of the Rotary Club of McGill. He's been in the chairmanship role of several Rotary district communities, and he's married to Annette for 30 years with 2 children, Russell, who's 27, and Jessica, who's 24. Now before I bring Kevin up, I'll just go through the story of Spring Gully last year. In April 2013, Spring Gully faced almost certain closure. Sudden drop in sales left the company with overall debts of $11 million, and they had to call an administrator in to take control. The administrator had little option but to wind the company up. News got out that the iconic third-generation Adelaide company faced closure, and it sparked an unprecedented show of support by SA consumers, supermarkets, and media. Almost overnight, the company generated sales and contracts that enabled the administrator to continue to operate the company. So massive was the turnaround that they had to add a second shift of workers to meet demand. On July 1st, it returned back to family control, and the government assisted with a small grant for the company to get new equipment. And to quote Kevin Webb, "The only reason we have a future is because of the public support we received. We owe a huge vote to everybody who supported us and continue to support us." Can I ask you please to put your hands together for Kevin Webb? Morning, Kevin.
Good morning, how are you, Stan?
Fantastic, good to have you, Emma.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the time. People are very keen to learn more about you, and Kevin will be here later till 9 a.m. as well. So before we begin, Kevin, I guess the first question that comes to my mind is, how did the business get into that position that it was in? And my perception was perhaps it was relying too much on big giants, like the Coles and Woolies perhaps. And if so, how can small business get more support from local communities to prevent this over-reliance? So, yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dan. It was quite a journey as we moved closer to April last year. And I think it probably goes back about 5 years prior to that, really, when we look back now and sort of analyse. There's been a lot of analysing going on since we got the business back. But that 5 years prior, I think, just listening to you, I think we were below the line a bit. And it was a pretty tough period. Our customers were going through a new competition battle. Wesfarmers had taken over Coles. Coles and Woolworths were really fighting hard to grow their businesses and get their share. And I think we got caught up in that, and margins got very, very, very slim as the new campaigns were rolled out, the down downs and so forth. And we started to rely a little bit too much on contract work and dealing with low margin, high volume contract work. So we were producing 50 to 70,000 bottles of food a day at our plant in Adelaide, and with slim margins over a period of time, it stopped the ability of the company to be able to spend money on itself and reinvest in itself, to look at best practice from around the world, because Australia manufacturing obviously is in a difficult position, and we need to be better than the rest, and Spring Gully slipped below that better than the rest, and unfortunately, as we moved towards that D-Day, we call it, April the 11th of 2013, we got to a point where it was getting too much, the burden was too high. We had a rapid decrease in sales over a 6-week period, not just for the Spring Gully brand, but for all the brands that we produce and the contracts that we give as well. And we have really good systems, and I've been told that by administrators and the people who now analyse our business. And we saw the bubble earlier in the year, probably just around January. So we've been, like we all do, I suppose, in business, when you see something adversity coming towards you, we went to our financiers and we started the process of renegotiating and looking at that bubble. And over our 70 years of history, that's always worked for us, and we've been able to get through that period of whether it was a drought affecting us or whatever in the supply chain. And you come out the other side and move on. And then all that was coming together, and then that 6 weeks of sudden sales drop occurred as we were negotiating with the bank, and they got nervous, and everybody got nervous, and the whole thing culminated in our board getting together on the 11th, headed by my father, a great man who's 82 years old now, and he said, "Gentlemen," because we're all men, boys and men around the table, we have to do the right thing, and let's make a decision, sign the paper, because it is as quick as one's future and the business is the administrators. It was quite an emotional time, as you can imagine. We're a family, a strong family, but signing that piece of paper was a pretty tough thing to do. And of course, at that point in time, we thought that was going to be the end of what we were, what we are, what we had, and a beautiful brand that we've grown up and loved. So that's sort of as we got to that date, and that decision was made.
What was the strategy after that to turn it around, and how did you get yourself into a position of such incredible influence, especially with media and social media, and in particular, like How did you get 15,000 Facebook likes in 7 days? I mean, you just got into the public eye.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knew about it. How did you do that?
It was thrust upon us. We had a great PR advisor, a guy called Peter Hayes from Corporate Conversation, and Peter said to me on that night of the 11th, he said, "Kevin, we can't have closed doors tomorrow. I think this is going to be a meeting event. Our family, we thought we might be buried on page 25 of the newspaper and it would be just another statistic, but he said this is going to be an event. If you can recall that week, Holden had announced 400 job losses and all that sort of thing was going on. South Australians were feeling the pain of losing manufacturing. So he said his advice to me was open those doors and talk to the media. So he gave me 10 minutes of training around the board table, and I was thrust out there. But as I got to work on that morning of the 12th, there was all the radio stations already there waiting. TV were ringing, and I'd already done interviews on the radio that morning at 5AA. So we were thrust there. We didn't have a Facebook page on the 12th. On the Friday night, we saw the same Spring Gully pages arising on Facebook. We knew that we had to act quickly because that day was driven by the media. Linda Higgins from 5AA devoted a whole 3-hour show to save Spring Gully, and we were interviewed on there. That sort of thing hadn't been seen to that level, I think, and she said to us after she could have run that switchboard for 5 hours. It was that lit up. She'd never seen it lit up so much in her life. It just shows that incredible spirit that the South Australian people have for what we are. I think deep down we understand what we are, but we don't tell the world what we are. But this event of ours, even though we're a small business, showed that this sort of thing can happen. So we quickly developed a social media policy. We enacted that policy. We took control of the page, and we saw over that weekend that by Sunday night, the 14th, we had just under 17,000 likes in around about 48 hours. And so it was now up to us to step up and not hide. The worst thing that we could have done, I think, as a family and as a business, was to close those doors on the Friday morning. And on the news that night, you probably would have seen a camera outside of our front office with our heads walking past, heads down, and therefore the true story would not get out. And I think it's important that business sense and in the sense that we are here in South Australia, that we do let the people know through the proper channels. Be honest, always be honest in what you're saying, and base what you're saying on fact. What they did teach me very quickly was make sure you've got your message and you cut through with the media. Not that we ever want to use the media, but we work with the media through that period, but to get our message across in an honest and most convenient way. So the social media had to really grow very quickly and rapidly, and so we then took control, we drove it, we put a social media committee in place within about 3 days, and they then were creating traffic on our Facebook page. They were answering our consumers and telling them what was going on, and we found that communication was a very important part right across everything that we did. To our staff, we set up texting with our staff, because if you can imagine business our size, I go out there every day, I say good morning to every staff member, I know them all personally. All of a sudden I was taken out of the business and I wasn't there to say good morning, that their comfort zone was gone. So we had to keep them inspired. They were an amazing group of people, and they worked so hard, but we had to communicate so they didn't get nervous and scared. So we set up group texting, and I'd text out, let them know what was going on, what I was doing, what was happening with the company.
Wow. How did you keep your cool? I mean, all right, we've got the business, this is all happening in the business, but as we know, personal and business, as much as we want to separate them, we're human beings, we're not human doings, where if we're having stress, well, that stress can come home. So how did you keep your cool during this crisis? How did you manage your personal life, your family, your health, your sleep? And what strategies would you recommend to people under high levels of stress? Because you were under pump.
Yeah, when I look back, I probably realised more what was going on than what I did during the period of actually living through that. But I decided early on that I had to get fit, and I had to have a fit body and a fit mind. So immediately I got into boot camp, and twice a week. And I don't look like it at the moment, but I still am going. But I am fitter than what I was this time last year. So body, and so the blood was pumping through my veins in a healthy manner, but also more importantly was my mental health. I felt that I needed to make sure my mind was of sound being. So I went we've learned a lot about mental health because my brother has taken ill 2 years ago with mental health problems. So I knew it was critical that our minds were kept strong. So I got myself a psychologist, and I went to the psychologist several times through the period of 3 months of the administration to make sure I was physically and mentally sound. I had unbelievable support from my family, as you would imagine in a business like ours. Some people here do know my father. He is an incredible man, incredible strength and inspiration to myself and probably to people that do know him. And he was just a Briton. And my children, everybody around us just gave me the inspiration to keep going. And with what was happening from our consumers and our public and the South Australian people, Western Australia and Australia, we just couldn't sit down. We had to rise. We couldn't be that people that sat in the corner with our heads in the sand. We had to raise above the line that you were talking about, Stan, and give back to the people as much as we could, because they were giving us the opportunity to come out of this adversity and have a new business, basically, if we could get through it.
Wow. And tell me, Kevin, what were some of the decisions you made, I suppose I call them pivotal decisions, that made a huge difference? If you look at the 20/80 rule, 20% of the decisions would have made the biggest impact. And because of those decisions, how have you developed as a leader? So,
there was a lot was done during that period. I think one of the best things we did was we had to get a good team of people around us. We were dealing in an environment with what we probably call the top end of town, Westpac, and all the different lawyers, and Austin Taylor, our administrator. We put a team together, and that team enabled us to travel through that 3-month period and get real results. The team was Mark Vartuli from E&A Equity Advisory, Tim Hall from Kane CNC, our lawyers. Austin Taylor was part of that team. He was a brilliant administrator. You never want to have an administrator in your lives, but if you have to have one, Austin was absolutely brilliant. He became a team member, and he really worked hard because he could see the benefits for his creditors, because he's there for his creditors, which were mine, to get the best for them. So this team was put together, and we found very quickly that there was a glimmer of light down that tunnel, and so we extended the period of administration from 4 weeks to 3 weeks, 4 weeks to 3 months. Keeping in mind, when we made the decision on the 11th, we had 3 days to decide whether the business was viable or not. We had to have everything in place in that first 3 days. So that team put together, and an important thing was that we removed me from the operational daily stuff, and we put a business manager in place at Spring Gully. He ran